afternoon, students. This is Mrs. Strada with your Week 6 audio lecture video for this week, as we won't be meeting. I wanted to kind of start off, as this is somewhat different than what we normally would have. I just wanted you to have this video kind of as a touch base in case you have questions for this week. I'm going to start off on the homepage. The homepage will always have recaps. We'll have due dates listed for you, so that way you have them. Always refer to these. That way they tell you what to expect and what we're going to do for those days. And then, as you understand, we won't be meeting this week, which is Thanksgiving week. I just wanted to make sure that in case you have that. And then if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And as you guys have noticed, we are an in-person class. This Week 6 is just for you, so that way you have it, because we have a few things in the folders. The Week 6 Part 1 folder includes the lecture slides, which I'm going to touch base on, the instructions for our research paper, the essay number 3, and a couple of resources. That way you have them. And then, just so that we understand, the Unit 2 exam is still ongoing. I opened it up last week from November 20th through November 30th, so that way you can still continue to work on it. And once it opens, once it closes, I will not be able to reopen it. And one thing that I will mention is, as we cannot review or look over the essay instructions because of this week and we're not meeting, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding its rigor or its content. But also because we're going in, and as we step into the format for this, I encourage you to take your time with this. And this essay is worth 20% of your grade. The annotated bib is worth 10, so together it is worth 30% of your grade. It is a rather lengthy thing, but I want to go ahead and show you what's in the folder, which shows you what's in the lecture slides as well, so that way you have it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so that way you guys can see what I'm seeing. These are your lecture slides. I apologize, I'm doing this in my office. We have our to-do list. We have a recap of what last week was. And mind you, the due dates listed for the Week 6 or Week 5 on the lecture slides are different, because I did this before I created or added extra days. So always refer to due dates that are listed within the folders themselves. The annotated worksheet is not due until the Monday that we come back from Thanksgiving, so it's not due until Monday. If you have not picked it up, I do encourage you to at least reach out or make sure that you grab it outside of my office before the break. If not, you will grab it on the way back. And then if you annotate at least one of the poems by Shakespeare or Wordsworth, you'll be awarded up to 4 extra points. So this is what's in the Week 6 Day 1 folder. It should say Day 1 online lectures. We're going to be looking at the essay instructions, but there's no online submissions. Just looking at the section as a whole on what this essay is. So this is our introduction to Essay 3, which is an argumentative essay. We understand that we've looked at essays as a whole, and so now we're going to be looking at one as a research paper. And just to clear up, we have to understand the definition of an argumentative essay is an essay that takes a stand on an issue. So we're going to be looking at the development of what this topic entails and what it does for us. We're going to be looking at evidence, and we're going to be proving things. So an argumentative essay states the thesis in the introduction, covers the thesis in the body, but provides a resolution or answer in the conclusion, but also throughout the entire thing. And let's look at some elements that make up the argument, not components of how this essay should look like, but these are just really good elements that you should consider altogether within your building this essay. You can consider the thesis. The thesis is the driving point to the essay. It controls the essay. It's the backbone to it. We also can consider personal background that you may know based off of the topic. And as everybody's going to be looking at the same topic, it's really important to be looking at that. Historical background. This is where you provide the audience with resonating historical facts or things that you already know based off the topic itself. And common ground. And because our common ground can be anything that equals out what other people find in common with us, we have to establish that. We have to understand that what I may see from the topic itself is very different than what you will see. Also continue with definitions. So based off of the idea of this story or this essay topic, we're going to explore stories. And so some stories may have definitions or terminology that others may not know. This is also a good way for you to define them so that there's no confusion. And then we also consider opposing thesis. As we develop our essay, we also understand that a good writer should consider different point of views. And so as we get ready to understand what the topic is, we'll see more about it. And as the reminder goes, I'm here for you. So if you have any questions within those days, Mondays and Wednesdays, 9 to 12, that's what I'm here for. So now that we looked at the content of what a structured essay is, let's look at the essay 3 instructions, but also understanding that we have our resources in case we need them. Purdue OWL for formatting citations to review. It tells you how to review all the citations. The databases for the go-to of Hill College LibGuides, their databases and online connections, but also the JSTOR database. So let's look at our essay 3 instructions. So if we were in class, I would have discussed the idea that stories often come with elements that resonated with us. So our question is, what makes a good story? So we're going to be looking at our research paper, Essay 3, the Argumentative Essay and Annotated Bibliography. This assignment is comprised of 2 sections, the essay itself and the annotated bibliography. So the essay itself with the works cited is 20% of your grade. The annobib is worth 10. So overall, it's 30% of your grade, which is why it's going to take a while to put it together, which is why I'm opening this up early. So section 1 is the essay itself along with the works cited page. This is where we're going to be answering the question. For your third and final essay, you will be addressing and arguing the following prompt. What key elements make a good story? So in short, your essay should be evident of 3 objectives. What are 4 to 5 key literary elements that should be included within a story to make it great or interesting to read? Elements that we've discussed in class and other examples will be listed below. Include at least 2 to 3 stories from the semester that add to your essay. And what is one key element that often ruins a good story? So your essay is going to address the question, but with subtext as well. So you're looking at what key elements make up a good story. So consider the fact that if you were writing a New York Times bestseller, what elements definitely need to be included within your work to make it impressionable? What stories can you include from stories that we've read in the course? And what is one key element that often ruins a story? So for this assignment, you'll explore points and views that support your claim. And after doing so, you use definitive points to continue forward in your research. The essay process of this assignment is to be able to showcase an arrangement of claims and look at it. This assignment's purpose is to look at the literary traits that we've discussed, but answer the question, what literary elements that you think help craft a good story? This allows you to ask the question for any story that you've read, viewed, or watched, what key elements would make a good story? So you need to incorporate elements from the list below and others that you see fit. And ask yourself, why would this element create a good story? So we include all the elements that we've started off from the week, plot, exposition, point of view, all the way to the ones for this week and next week. Mind you, these are elements that we've covered in class, but there's also some that are not listed, but can be incorporated in your essay. Characters such as the hero, sidekick, villain, love interest, plot twist, all the way down to characters that add comedic relief, etc. If there's an element not listed but you would like to explore it, feel free to let me know. As this has been ongoing, I add more and more to it. So the purpose of this essay is to break down and analyze a central topic and arrange it in an orderly fashion. You, as the student, may go through multiple drafts by the time you start, by the time you ended, and the time that it's submitted. But otherwise, as the writing process goes, we just want to make sure that it is sound, ready, perfect, polished. Okay? Your audience and context for this is the readers of the classroom. You're addressing them of the stories and the elements, and what elements need to be incorporated for it to meet a good story. Your audience is included, so as we also have a peer review workshop in class in the weeks to come, you also can go into the idea that if it's a story that they may have not read, maybe we can go ahead and define it. The essay text requirements for this essay is that it needs to be typed, started off in Word Doc, Google Doc, however, but it is to be printed and handed in. This essay should include a title, not just essay 1 or essay 3 or research paper, but there's no need for a title or cover page. This essay should include at least 4 to 6 quotes, in-text quotes, paraphrases, summaries from the sources or the stories. So altogether, at least 4 to 6 quotes. And because we're adhering to proper MLA essay guidelines, Times New Roman size 12, double space, and 1-inch margins. The essay length of the essay content should be at least 3 pages. This does not include the works cited page or the annotated bib. The actual paragraphs should be at least 3 to 5 pages. And I'll show you in a minute what that outline looks like. The proper heading should be your first name and last, the course section and name, and my name and the date. If you ever just needed to know those, it's right here. Comp 1302 or Comp 284. And this is where we go. These are the essay research requirements. Since the sources for the essay and the annotated bib go hand in hand, your requirements are as follows. You need to use at least 3 sources to craft your essay. That is, these are the sources that are not the stories. These are outside sources that are pulling in quotes that help support your claim. One of those sources must come from a reputable database, such as ones we use in class, JSTOR, Bloom's, EBSCO, Host, Gale, Salem. These are databases that you're going to pull an article from an online journal and use it within your paper. And the article should date from 2007 onward, and the page length should be more than 2 pages, not a summary or abstract. Other sources that you can use can be websites, so as long as they don't end in .com, so .gov, .org, or .edu. So at least one source just comes from a database, and then others can come from other sources. So in fact, start off here, at least try to find one from a database, and then go into the other ones. But you're more than welcome to include other stories or novels or works that you've read outside of class to fit into your paper, because not all your elements are going to be stories that we found in class. Mind you, there's stories that you've read growing up, there's movies, there's TV shows, there's elements from different ways that ask you the question, I need a suspense novel like Stephen King. Then let's use an example from Stephen King and how horror is a good genre that we need to be writing in. Then we use that. You're more than welcome to use other stories that we haven't found in class, but if you need assistance, let me know. But you can also pull from sources such as newspapers, periodicals, YouTube videos, film, TV shows, or even hard copies of books. Attempt to source a novel, TV show, or film that has resonated with you outside the source as well. And then just as we understand that this is going to be an essay that incorporates MLA standards with a works cited page, and as many of us are aware, we just have a works cited page step-by-step guide within the essay instructions right here. That way you have it. It shows you that a works cited page has indented or hanging lines that show you from the start of one citation to another. It tells you that the entire source, author, last name, quotation of title, where it's found, its volume, edition. If it's an online journal, its URL, DOI, and date access is always included. It shows you that the entries, because you'll have multiple sources, will be in alphabetical order, and that it's a hanging indent. And if you don't know what that is, feel free to reach out to me. I want to make sure that you understood that. This is just a step-by-step guide on how to go into the database of Hill College with LibGuides. And each of these databases are different ones. So these are numerous databases for you to look at. I also included JSTOR because it's its own database. And the use of JSTOR just requires you to go in. It may have you sign in, but to make sure that you filter out your searches so that with any academic content, you're looking at journals in or articles found in journals. And with JSTOR, I don't know about other ones, but JSTOR has a really cool tool that if you found a source that you like, they already cite it for you. So that way all you have to do is go in and copy it into your works cited page and you have its citation. And so like, for example, if this is one that you use for this specific source, that is the citation for your works cited page. and you would just put that last name with the page number on how and when the quote is used. That's just for JSTOR. I don't know how the other ones have it. And continuing forward, I actually included in this, which is also hard copies found outside of my office, the use of citations. So if you're using it as an online source, this is where you can find it. This is how you would cite it from an article found in an online journal, the use of a page on a website, the use of film or movies, because you're exploring not just sources or stories found in the class, taking in from them. Explore what you know. Explore what stayed with you long ago when you were a kid. If you were reading Arthur books, babysitters books, sagas or series, what moves you, and why does that author choose that specific literary element, and would you include it in yours? You can even cite recorded television shows, anything from a streaming platform, and even an entire TV series. I don't know why that messed up right there. I don't know what's going on right there, but you can even cite specific aspects. So these are the text and the stories, the text from the course, including our stories, poems, and play, starting with the poem in Samara, going all the way down to the play, Sure Thing. So something that you should consider is pulling specifically from the stories that are needed for the requirement. So for every story that you need, let's just say that you use Greasy Lake for the theme of coming of age, and the gift of the parable of the prodigal son for a theme. So you would use the stories followed by its source that discusses it and a quote. Since you will be using multiple sources, you will need to use a works cited page. Failure to not have a works cited page will have the essay deemed as a 0. Due to using number of sources, be sure to address the author's name with the beginning of the quote or the end text citation, because if you're saying the author does this, the author does that, what author? Is it an author from a story, or is it an author from a database? And what database or journal or source are you talking about? And what if there's two Browns, Dr. Brown and Mark Brown? Which one? So be sure to cite. And then I include the example outline right here. This is just a working outline. It's not so much for students to just use. You're more than welcome to have it in a different way, but this is really helpful for some students. And it just says that you altogether need to use at least 4 to 6 examples of quotes, not per paragraph, but overall meet the criteria of inserting 4 to 6 quotes. So attempt to use a quote from each story that you cite or use. And then it just tells you what goes in every paragraph. For example, in paragraph 1, the introduction paragraph, you're answering the question, what key elements make up a good story? Then continuing further, just follow through. It just tells you with every paragraph, what's a key element? Use a story, but also use a source. And what's a key element that will often ruin a story? It also says right here that, for example, if you state that theme is an important factor, research the web page or article that helps support your reasoning. For every element that you state is important, you will need to find a source that supports it. Okay, and then it continues forward. And then it also says that to answer the question, what is one key literary element that ruins a story? So discuss with me an element that is not needed. And if I'm stating that one element that ruins a story is a cliffhanger, I will need to explain my reasoning with a specific example or why it's a disadvantage. And then the conclusion. And so the essay due date is not the week that we get back, but it is actually Monday, December 8th at 4 p.m. It needs to be typed and stapled and ready to turn in. I do allow you to turn in 1 day late, but I deduct automatically 30 points off. Failure to not turn in by Tuesday, December 9th at 4 p.m. will result in a 0. I will not accept submissions past Tuesday, December 9th at 4 p.m. as my grading book will close. And due to the strenuous timeline of this, I will not be able to afford late passes for this. This is a hard copy of an essay that you will turn in. So therefore, I will not accept it online. There's not a module in Brightspace. You are turning this in as a hard copy. And I won't accept email attachments or web links. A printed version is what needs to be turned in for me to give you a grade. And because we're also going to be using components of peer review, we are going to have peer review whenever we return back to campus for this. But those components of peer review are not going to be given to you until we get back. But these are what's going to be turned in all together for your essay. Your final essay, the self-evaluation checklist sheet, which is something that you'll cover for your peer review workshop, 2 to 3 copies of your peer review worksheets, and a draft copy. When writing the essay, be sure to continue with the works cited page followed by the annotated bibliography. And we have to understand that the essay with the works cited is something different than the annotated bibliography. So in continuation, the annotated bibliography is its own separate assignment. It evaluates the sources used in the essay. For every citation, you follow it with a paragraph on how it was used, accessed. Therefore, it's called the annotation. Just like we annotated paragraphs or poems, we dissected them and we looked at their elements. So I'll go back and go at this real quick, but I'm going to show you what that technically looks like visually. So we understand that a works cited page will have a page similar to this, and it'll say works cited. It'll also have a citation. Followed by the citation will be a paragraph, and that is the annotated bibliography. You'll change keeping the works cited page, but adding another page and just copying all of that, you'll say works cited. You'll change that to annotated bibliography. You'll keep your citations from your works cited page, but for every citation, add a paragraph. And within that paragraph, this is what I'm going to be looking at. A paragraph that is divided into 2 sentences. A sentence that discusses its summary, how it was used, and how you reflect on it. And per every element, I've included sentence starter examples that you can just pull from. And so it just shows you that you're not going to write separate paragraphs per each element. Instead, you are just going to write a simple paragraph that answers how it was used, how it was accessed and reflected. So it'll look like this. It's still a simple paragraph. After every citation, write a paragraph and follow with one of those sentence starters from each element. And this is our class schedule going in, knowing that today is November 24th, so we're not having class. I'll be in my office, and then we're not meeting obviously the day before Thanksgiving. But next week, on the 1st, be sure to come in with a draft. Your draft doesn't have to be anything perfect. It can just be something that you put together, but it is something that others can help you collab, revise, and edit. If you don't bring nothing, you don't have nothing to give, but then you will still be part and participate in the Thanksgiving, in the peer review workshop. We also have optional student conferences. This is excellent for you to have questions, look at anything that you need. And then finals, we are not meeting. Our last day to meet is peer review workshop day. And then this is the due date for the essay. My grading book closes approximately that Tuesday, December 9th, for me to be able to have adequate time to grade. And then your final exam is also open December 1st through December 7th. It's 100% online. But if you would like to take it in person, feel free to look at the subtext right here. It tells you the last day to reach out to me. I also have my rubric right here for you to look at in regards to the essay. Now I'm going to go back in, and I'm also going to show you what's in the Week 6 Part 2 folder. As we look at the Week 6 Part 2 folder, we also include its lecture slides, but also the text Sure Thing, You Fit Into Me, a few poems, Love Calls Us Into the Things of This World, and Having a Coke with You by Frank O'Hara. We also have the Academic Integrity Quiz and Quiz 6. After you read all these works, I would like you to take this quiz. And the due date, a couple of days after, so it's not a normal Sunday due date. It does give you a couple of days extra. It tells you some important information for you. And as we cannot review or look at it during this time, please understand the rigor and the importance of this essay, that it does require time. And the lecture slides, beautifully done. It tells you, going back in, if we were to meet, what these would look like, and the continuation of the literary elements, play and ploy, because you're going to be reading a play. And if you have any questions, let me know.